Okay, we're live. Awesome. So if you just join on Instagram and then we
Cool. Let me get on here
started.
and mute you here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Hi.
Hey.
What's up?
Not much. How are you?
Good. Hi, everyone. So I'm joined by Andrea today, who works at the Count Basie in New Jersey. It's an iconic venue here. It's a theater. My uncle actually manages it, so that's how we got in touch. We're just going to talk a little bit about what they've been doing during the pandemic. There's been drive-in shows that are safe and socially distant, and I thought it was a pretty cool thing to talk about. So if you just want to go ahead and introduce yourself first before we jump into questions, that would work.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so my name's Andrea, like she said. So I'm the operations coordinator at the Basie. We're a nonprofit, so we're a theater performing space at the Jersey Shore. We're a venue that holds about 1,500 people. And we do, we have a show almost every day. Normally, we do, comedy shows, regular rock concert shows. We have Broadway shows that come through. So it's a pretty big operation we run. And obviously, we were shut down by COVID, obviously. So in the meantime, we kind of, had to pivot to try to get to some live events. We don't have our own outdoor space, so we kind of had to reach out and branch out and push ourselves out of our comfort zones. And
Right.
we started doing the drive-in shows, as you mentioned, and then we also started doing almost like an outdoor supper club style performance space as well, where you're seated at a table with only people and mostly comedy, some concert type situations. But yeah, it's been going really well.
Awesome. It's so cool. I've been telling Izzy, I think it's like the coolest thing that they've like adapted. You guys have adapted so well to what's going on. And it's sad. Like I'm an avid concert goer, so it's so sad that like we really can't do that. But you guys have made it possible, which is really cool.
Yeah, it was tough because it was, for the first few months or so, it was just, constantly rescheduling and canceling and trying to make things work with everything we already had on the calendar. Um, and even at first, like when it first started happening, everything in March, we're like, yeah, we'll just push it back to May, June. And then we're like, nah, this is all going to have to move again. So,
Yeah, it's not working.
yeah, it doesn't feel right. So, yeah, we're still working on obviously moving a ton of other stuff too. But in the meantime, this has been really nice for us. I feel super lucky that I'm part of a team that's so, motivated to keep going and to keep, trying to find new ways to entertain people. And I think it's been really successful so far. We've had a ton of really, really cool stuff come through.
Yeah, I've been seeing. I think the front bottoms were recently. I
Yeah,
didn't
we had
get a
those.
chance to go, but that was cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. They did because they had just released an album, so it was like they got to, even for like artists too, like they have an outlet too to, they've been working so hard on this kind of stuff and they can't
Right.
perform. So it's a cool way to reconnect with fans and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So we can jump into questions now. The first one is, how did you strategize creating socially distant, safe shows during this pandemic?
So yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind when we were trying to make this work was people need to feel safe. Because that was obviously the biggest fear from the get-go is we would do this and people would be like, I'm not going to that. Like that doesn't seem safe at all. So there was kind of talks about people doing it already. We ended up being the first venue in the country to announce that we were doing something like that. I think it was mostly based on the idea of, drive-in movies, like that always worked and people were comfortable doing that. So what difference is it if we can just, put that into a live event instead?
Right.
So I think our shows are a little different than other places that have done it. You're really supposed to stay in your car. We don't do tailgating or, people kind of, would have their windows down, or if you were in a convertible or like a pickup truck, sit in the bed of the truck, or
Hmm.
things like that. If you're in a Jeep, take the top off and sit up top, but really just to stay in your confined space. We were pretty strict about that because we knew people were uncomfortable with the idea of, a bunch of people out and about mingling with other people. We had really strict security. We had, anytime you left your car, it was only to go to the bathroom. Like, we didn't have concessions or anything. We limited
Right.
the contact as much as possible, and you had to be wearing a mask if you left the car, and they were pretty intense about it. So yeah, I think safety was the number one priority when we were kind of trying to set that up and just making people feel comfortable after being in their houses, not around anybody, let alone complete strangers in
Yeah.
neighborhoods.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely the most important thing. And I think you guys have been doing a really, really good job from what I've heard. I haven't gone out to one yet, but from what I've heard, they're really safe.
Yeah, it's definitely, we've gotten a lot of good feedback. There's always some people that are still uncomfortable, and that's totally fine. I think it depends on what you feel is safe, but I mean, we were pretty strict about everything, and that was our number one priority, really, because we knew if it wasn't safe, people wouldn't come. So it's
Right.
better to be a little too strict than not strict enough, and then
Yeah,
it was
I
crazy.
agree completely.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, next one is, was it difficult to find a place to do the drive-in shows?
It wasn't necessarily difficult. I think we kind of lucked out because the place, so we have it at the Monmouth Park Racetrack,
Hmm.
which is, 10 minutes from the Basie as is. And we already kind of, know the people that own it. It's kind of like, they all obviously lost a ton of business as well because they couldn't open up until like July for all of their horse racing and sports betting and everything like that. So it was kind of an easier situation. I feel like we lucked out because we had already known somebody that was open and willing to do some of those kind of events.
Right.
They actually in the past had hosted like Warp Tour in their parking lots, so like they're kind of like prepared for that kind of situation. But yeah, I think it just took like a team of people like on our end that were like, here's a plan, here's the way that we can make it work. And then, a team of people on their end that were like, yeah, we're ready to do something exciting like that. So I think it
Right.
was, a little bit of luck and a little bit of knowing people and then just having good teams that are willing to put something like that on.
Yeah, absolutely. Implementing something like that is huge. It's a
Yeah,
huge
especially
thing to take
to,
on, and it's awesome that like you guys kind of teamed up
yeah.
together to accomplish that.
Definitely. Yeah. It's cool to bring, it brings awareness to a bunch of businesses and a bunch of different people to come out and see something different.
Right. Cool. How do you handle the booking process? Do you seek out artists, or are artists still coming to you?
When we first put it together, it was kind of, it was totally new. So there's still, people that aren't comfortable performing yet.
Right.
Um, our first show was Southside Johnny, who is like a Jersey local.
Yeah. Legend.
Everybody, anytime Southside Johnny plays, like, everybody's mom and dad show up and are
Yeah.
like thrilled. So, he lives super local too. So once he was on board, um, and we sold out that show in like an hour, and we accommodated for 900 cars. So that just shows, and each car could hold up to 4 people. So you're
Wow.
talking, a little less than 4,000 people that are ready to go see something is pretty exciting stuff. And then the day after that, we also had Jim Gaffigan. So he was another one that was, comedy is pretty easy to do for like, there's just one person on stage.
Right.
And it's relatively, simple to set up. So I think that, once we nailed those two and they were both sold out and super successful, that's when all the agents and everybody suddenly are paying attention. And they're like, what is this? What's going on? And that's when we know we have people reaching out to us
Yeah.
to kind of, get on the schedule. And so we're still, depending on, what we have going on and what they have going on, it's still us reaching out to some people, really just setting up timelines that work because we want to have it set up so it's like 3-4 shows in a row rather
Yeah.
than, showing up, loading in for one show and then leaving. It's just not worth the expense.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Especially like sold out in an hour. That's
Yeah, it was crazy. It was definitely a really exciting because before it went on sale, we were all just like, this
Well,
could
'cause, yeah, you
really
got
go
a
either way.
50-50 shot, like,
Yeah,
they're gonna be
exactly.
great or nobody's gonna go.
Yeah, everybody's gonna be like, why are they doing this? Like, that's a
Right.
horrible idea. So then when that sold out, I think, it was a pretty good sign that people are just ready to get back and do something, even if it's not totally normal. It's just, you know,
Right. And that's
kind
what
of.
we have to do right now, like, things aren't going back to normal, we have to, like, adapt and overcome and find
Right,
new ways to do
right, exactly.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many shows do you guys do a week?
It changes for the most part. For the drive-ins, we've done total, I think we've done, there was 2, 4, 8 of them. Um, like I said, we did them in kind of batches, like of 2 or 3,
Mhm.
just so, we could keep everything because, we're coming into a blank parking lot with nothing in it. So we have to load in everything, stage, lights,
Right.
generators, the works, golf carts, just anything you can think of. So it gets super expensive. So the more shows we can split the expenses over, the more it makes sense to do it.
Yeah.
Um, and then adding the supper club shows in, we've been picking up on those a lot. There was a span of about 3 weeks ending a couple days ago where we had something every single day. So we
Wow.
were, flipping back and forth between the drive-in or the Blue Grotto is where we are having the supper club shows. So for a minute, it was, back to back. And sometimes for comedy shows, they're doing 2 shows a day. So you'd be like, at the Blue Grotto from like, a 7 p.m. show and then a 9:30 show. And then the next day we have a drive-in. So you're over at the parking lot, at like 1
Right.
p.m. for a 7 p.m. show. So it's been definitely a whirlwind.
That's dedication.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's been cool just to get back into the swing of things because at the theater we have something going on usually every day anyway. So it was funny getting back and working something every day because it gets so used to clocking out at 5 o'clock, and I'm like, it's
Right.
11. I'm so tired. Like, why am I doing this? But it's been cool. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds fun. I'll have to get out to one. I gotta
Yeah,
look
you
at
got it.
the calendar and see
Definitely
what's
because
coming up.
we've been adding a ton of the shows, especially at the Blue Grotto. So definitely let us know because we'd love for you to come out.
Yeah, definitely. What impact has social media had on the audience turnout for these shows?
Social media is definitely our biggest form of marketing at this point because everybody's at home. We have a really great marketing team, and they put together really, really great stuff. All the images are just beautiful, and the different logos and everything they've put together, like on the spot, basically come up with these crazy new ideas that are just nonstop. It's been really, really cool. So yeah, social media is definitely our number one way to market any of these shows. We, everything's on a timed basis. We make events for every single event, and it's basically the main way to interact with people too.
Right.
So it's cool to gauge, everybody's interests based on these shows. But it's been
Yeah,
fun.
that's awesome. How many people usually, or cars, I guess, usually turn up?
It depends. Some of the shows were a little bit lighter, um, anywhere between like 250 and then up to like 900 is our max. So
Nice.
yeah, anywhere in between. Then pretty much like the way the parking lot is set up is it's kind of like on an incline towards the stage. So like
Mhm.
once you get past like the first few rows or so, you can't really see anything anyway. So like it's a pretty nice setup. Like it's perfect viewing from either like, the back of the parking lot to like right up front. And like
Right.
all the cars, the sound is set up via FM transmitter. So if you're towards the back, you just tune to the station on your car. And we have screens, like delay screens set up obviously closer to the back too, so you can still see. Um, but
That's
yeah,
cool that you can tune into it.
yeah, you can definitely tune in. And then we have the PA set up closer just so, it still feels like a show when you're up front. It's
Right.
not like the band playing to like nothing. It's just,
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if I could. I would have to like sit on the roof of my car or
I
something.
know. That's what, Yeah, that was always the number one question was like, how, can I, if I bring a convertible, can I put the top down? And like, of course, like it's, you're still outside, and as long as you just stay within your area,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Keep the distance.
exactly. And
Definitely.
we did it. The spots were spaced out like checkerboard style. So like there's a space in between you and the next car, and then,
Right.
there was a space behind you. So
Right.
you weren't parked directly next to anybody. It was still, about 9 feet between each car.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great setup. How can artists who want to play kind of get on the Basie's radar?
I mean, pretty much anyway, just anybody that sends in an email to us, we always go through all of them. There is a person that reads all of them. It's not like sending it into dead nothingness. Or contact us on social media too. Those are pretty much the only ways because we're still all out of the office.
Right.
We go in kind of randomly if we need to, but everybody's still working from home for the most part. So pretty much any way online, somebody goes through it, somebody reads it. If you're, something that would work, we'll reach back out.
Awesome. Sounds good. Did you experience any pushback from the community and the people who live around here on bringing back in-person shows, even if they're safely done?
We definitely did. Nothing crazy. There was, a few people that just, like to share their opinion. And I've talked to a few people that basically were like, I still don't feel safe doing that. And, even if you're in a car with somebody, if it's somebody you haven't seen in a few months, like, how is that safe? And, it all just comes down to perspective and what you feel is safe and what you are comfortable with. So, we always say you can't please everybody. Obviously, we're just trying to make something that'll work for the most amount of people.
Yeah.
But other than that, like with the town and everything, I actually live in the town that the shows are in, so it's actually great for me because I only have to go down the street. But we still have a regular noise ordinance, so the shows are usually done by 9 or so, and then it clears out pretty quickly. And we haven't had any complaints from the town. After the first show, the mayor actually sent us a nice message about how successful it was and how he's happy to host them, and so it so far has been pretty good. And then once it started to pick up, it quieted down a lot more. People are just kind of used to it. And I've even seen comments from people like, oh, I can hear the music from my house. Like, it's so nice to think that some things are, back to normal.
Right.
So it's been relatively, there's always going to be somebody that's upset, but
Yeah.
try to.
I definitely have to get to one.
You
I haven't
really
seen
do.
a concert in so long. Like, I don't even know when the last concert I saw was.
I know. It's weird going back too.
That's like not me. Like, all I do is concert. That's all the questions that I had. Anyone watching, if you have any questions, please feel free to send it in the comments. We'll give it a couple minutes and see if anyone has any questions. Is there anything else that you want to touch on? Any tips, tricks, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely worth coming out to things like this, especially with, the fall's coming and winter's coming, and we don't really know what's going to be happening moving forward. We're allowed to do in New Jersey now where you can do 150 people indoors. So we're obviously trying to pivot towards that and see what makes sense financially because, that's awesome that we can do that, but that's still a pretty small number for what we can host.
Right.
So it ends up being, is it worth it to even put something on with all the expenses it would be? But yeah, all the shows that we have at the dinner club are going really, really well. They pretty much all sell out. We just hosted Kevin Hart for 7 shows the past 3 days, which has been amazing. It was so much fun and he was so cool and everybody really enjoyed themselves and it's super safe and we try our best to make people feel comfortable and we've been getting some pretty good feedback.
Right. That's great. I saw Kevin Hart in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Like a year and a half ago. He's incredible.
He is so funny. He just,
So
and he's
fun.
like, a master, like did not falter, like just perfect show every single time. It was really cool.
Yeah. Not a question, but congrats. Love the idea.
Oh,
We love that.
Thank you. Yeah. It's been a whirlwind. That's for sure.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you might be moving to the indoors. Is that still like, how would you go about that? Is that still going to be like separate tables, 6 feet apart kind of deal?
Basically, yeah. So we actually have a second venue that we've been doing construction on for, a few years, and this year was supposed to be the time that we opened our new venue space, and obviously the timing couldn't have been any
Yeah.
worse. So we've been waiting, we've been like finishing things up. So we have, a general admission standing room that we've been ready to host events at for this fall, and now things are going to have to change. So we're hoping we're going to be able to do something similar to like what we've been doing at the restaurant with a seated, you know, show, hopefully. But it's all up in the air. We're just hoping that things can kind of add up and make sense for us to host things like that indoors. Right now, we're planning to go through October for the most part over there, and just hope that it stays warm. October is pretty hit or miss with temperature, but
Yeah, can be.
we will hope for the best.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
but yeah, I mean, the more we add, if they just keep selling, like there's no reason not to keep it going, and people seem to enjoy it. As long as there's a bar and a little bit of food, people will sit and enjoy themselves no matter what's on the stage. So
Right. Do people like listen for the most part to the rules? Like, are they
yeah,
generally
people are surprisingly good. That was our biggest fear when we started the shows, was that people were just gonna go crazy and do whatever they wanted. But people are honestly better than we thought they would be. Just generally listen to the rules. I feel like the rules are super tight so that when people do something like slightly off, you're like, that's still fine. But
right?
um, we we do have strict security, so anytime anybody gets up from their table or leaves their car at the events, security is always watching. Like, put on a mask. If your mask is not on, you have to go back to your car. And we haven't
Right.
really had any. Nobody fights it. Everybody knows, this is what it is, and it's been pretty good for the most part.
Yeah. That's been my experience too with just like going out to like bars or anything like that. They're
Right.
pretty safe and pretty strict about it.
Yeah, definitely. As long as you just have people on top of it, I feel like people know that this is such a, rare experience. And I hope people just know, like, hopefully this is the only time in your life that, things are going to be like this. So, take advantage of, a drive-in show. Like, who knows when that would ever happen again.
Right.
And I feel like people get that, but, it's been pretty good for the most part.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Like, go experience it
Yeah, it's just
safely.
yeah,
Safely.
it's just different. It's something that you'll probably well, hopefully never see again. So
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Awesome. Okay. Well, I don't have any other questions, and I
Okay,
don't see anybody putting any in the comments. So
cool.
I think we're safe to end it here.
Cool.
Thank you so much for coming on. You're a
No
lifesaver.
problem. Yeah, no problem at all. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it was fun. Awesome. Okay. Thanks
Cool.
so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.